Good. Now if you say, all right, understood why I should delegate, but how do I go about it? There are 4 steps in delegating. The first one is the easy, it's somewhere between easy and complicated. It sounds easy, but in reality, it's not that easy. So you create a task list. That's what I already told you in the example. I wrote down all of the tasks that I was doing in order to get an overview. It can be tasks, it can be responsibilities, it can be decisions. Doesn't really matter, just write them down. And then remember, it can be your own tasks that you're delegating, but it can also be the tasks of the entire team. If you want to delegate tasks that the team is doing to some other team or outside of the project. And these tasks can be one-off tasks that you need to do only once, or they can be recurring tasks that you need to do every day or every week or whatever. When I said it can be easy, I meant that it's easy writing the tasks down. But just sitting down and thinking of all the things that you do as a project manager will require some time and some thought. Because the interesting and the fun part of being a project manager is that you have a variety of tasks. But then exactly that makes it difficult to write them down, because no day is like the previous day, and there's always something new that you need to do. First step, create a task list. Second step, identify an appropriate and suitable colleague that could take over that task or responsibility or decision. What do I mean by suitable colleague? It really depends. You should take a look at the know-how that he has. If he already has a lot of know-how in that particular area, that's good, because it's easy for him to take over that task. But it doesn't need to be. Even if he doesn't have a lot of knowledge in that area, it might be a good idea for him to take over the task to exactly build up that knowledge. Second thing that you should look into is the experience. Does he have some experience or a lot of experience executing that task, or not at all? And same as with the know-how and the knowledge, it can be a good thing or a bad thing to have a lot of experience. It depends on what you want to do. Which brings me to the third point. Is there some potential for development? Do you want that colleague to develop some new skills? If so, it would be a good idea to give a task to somebody who is not very knowledgeable and experienced with that task, because they have the opportunity to learn something new. But remember, it should also be interesting for them. So if you delegate a task to somebody who's not interested at all in that task, you will probably not get good results. So also take into account the interest that that person has in executing the task. And finally, the topic of workload. I mean, there are always some people who are doing more than the fair share of the work. And if you're constantly putting on more work on their shoulders, they might get a burnout or something like that. So just take a look at all the other tasks and responsibilities of that person and think whether they can take on another task. So, second step, identify a suitable colleague for that task. Third step, identify a suitable delegation stage. That sounds a little bit more difficult, and I will show you 2 examples on how to do it exactly in later chapters. But just for your reference, delegation is not black and white. It's not either you delegate or you don't delegate at all, but there are shades of gray in between. And there are 2 rather simple methods of picking the right shade of gray. And they are called situational leadership and the delegation board. And I will go into detail of these methods later on, but you need to be aware that the third step is picking the right delegation stage for the task and the employee. And the fourth step, that's an easy one, just review the results. I mean, just because you delegated the task doesn't really mean that it's working out brilliantly. You might have picked the wrong employee, you might have picked the wrong task, you might have picked the wrong delegation stage. There are all kinds of things that can go wrong. So you should review the task that you delegated in regular intervals to make sure that everything is going well. A hint from my side, this four-step process, you don't need to run through it all by yourself. You can also do it in the team and identify with the entire team what are tasks that somebody is doing that can be delegated to other team members in order to free up some time for that team member, in order for somebody to gain more knowledge, in order for the result to be of better quality. So just remember, you might need to trigger the conversation about delegation, but you don't need to do it all by yourself. And the second tip, you should be aware of a phenomenon that is going to happen. If you take a look at this diagram, you have the time that is passing on the x-axis and the quality of the result on the y-axis. And you need to be aware of that the moment that you decide to delegate a task or a decision, there will most probably be a drop in quality, which is normal. I mean, after all, somebody else is picking up where you left, and most probably that somebody won't have the same experience and knowledge as you have gained. So please do expect this kind of drop in quality. And then you have a learning phase where that person is actually learning how to do the task, how to execute the task. And if everything goes well, you will end up with an even higher quality over time. But just be aware of that drop in quality and that learning curve. Please don't expect the same result or even better result one day after delegating a task. Most probably this won't happen. So I want you to remember that delegation is good for freeing up time for yourself to focus on the important stuff. It's good for motivating your team members because they can contribute more to the project. And usually it also leads to better results. And that's why I consider delegation the most powerful tool a leader can use. Let me close with a quote from Theodore Roosevelt. He said, "The best executive is one who has sense enough to pick good people, to do what he wants done, and self-restraint enough to keep from meddling with them while they do it." I think this is so true. So just think about the quote and then delegate, delegate, and enjoy.